8 consecutive unanswered goals helped Penn State win in historic fashion to get past Notre Dame and back into the Final Four for the second time in 3 years.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That is right. You are locked on to Penn State men's lacrosse. And thank you so much for checking out another edition of Locked On Nittany Lions as Jeff Tambroni and the Nittany Lions are into the Final Four. My name is Zach Seyko, and I'm your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State wrestling. He is Eric Ohlson, color commentator, sometimes the play-by-play voice for Penn State men's hockey. Also played lacrosse in high school and covered it throughout our time when we were students at Penn State. So we're going to be dabbling into a conversation that wouldn't be routine here, but it is worth talking about because for the second time in 3 seasons, Penn State men's lacrosse is making the Final Four. Had that controversial loss the last time they were there in the semifinals. No replay on a goal controversy. That's been corrected this time, but Penn State took matters into their own hands by defeating Notre Dame. We're going to talk about this matchup with Cornell as Penn State's the only team to defeat Cornell this season. Can they do it again? Easier said than done with Cornell atop of the rankings. Eric, let's react to this match with Notre Dame because they weren't exactly favored, and it took 8 consecutive goals. Not exactly, but they gave them some insurance there. And the Nittany Lions, they were trailing by a bunch. It looked like Notre Dame was in control. And then all of a sudden, Matt Traynor and company just came out of nowhere and were able to put the Fighting Irish away.
Yeah, you don't see games like this very often in lacrosse. The beauty of lacrosse, though, is that something like this is possible. There's so much parity in the sport now over the last 5 or 6 years that rallies like this and wins like this can happen, but it's still really rare though. An 8-0 run, you're down 12-6 in the third quarter. Notre Dame scored, I think their last goal was at like 5:56 or something like that for the third quarter, and they didn't score again. An 8-0 run by Penn State. Notre Dame didn't even have a shot on goal in the fourth quarter, and that's a great Notre Dame team. That's the 2-time defending national champion Notre Dame Fighting Irish, going for a three-peat for the first time in program history. Kevin Corrigan is an outstanding coach, worked so long to get the Irish to that moment 2 years ago to win a national championship, to go back-to-back last year, and they were good enough to go for the three-peat this year. So to be down 12-6 and rally from that, immensely impressive. What Matt Traynor did, putting the team on his back to create offense, to score 6 goals himself. Penn State's offense, it's not like it was balanced. It's not like it was a balanced rally.
It's not.
Traynor had 6 goals, and then 2 other guys combined for 6 as well. So 12 of your 14 goals just came from 3 guys. But Matt Traynor was absolutely outstanding, creating space, putting the ball in the net. It was unreal. And what Penn State did defensively in the fourth quarter, going to its zone and just dominating Notre Dame. That's one of the great things about lacrosse is you're never in the same defense over the course of a game. It's just too hard. Penn State was in man a lot. They were getting beat. They go to the zone, and their zone was absolutely locked in. And that was a huge reason why Notre Dame didn't even have a shot on goal in the fourth quarter. It just played out perfectly. Then Penn State was able to go and score enough times to get that win. Just an unbelievable comeback. One of the best probably in tournament history. And now, back to the Final Four for the third time. And they're trying to get over that hump now of winning that first game. When it was in Philly back in 2019, they lost to Yale in the semifinal. T.D. Erlin, the outstanding face-off specialist for Yale, just dominated in that game. Penn State did have a second half rally, but came up just short. And then you mentioned the controversial overtime loss to Duke on a goal that should not have counted because he was in the crease. And now back in the Final Four again, trying to win that semifinal game and play for a national championship.
Beating Notre Dame 14-12, upending that team that was on the verge potentially of a three-peat. Now they meet Cornell. And what Penn State has going for them is the fact that Cornell only has one loss this season. Okay, well, why is that? Why do they have that going for them? Because that is the lone loss. Penn State is the only team this season to defeat Cornell, and it was at Cornell. 13-12 in overtime. It's going to be probably nothing different this time around. Also, something worth pointing out is the fact that Tambroni actually coached at Cornell for quite some time. I think close to a decade, almost a decade around there before taking the job at Penn State. So this is a little personal for Coach. I hope the emotions don't get to a little too lofty in this situation, but I think that everybody's going to be able to manage it. But this is another one in the semifinals where Penn State's got to, of course, when you get to the Final Four, you're going to have to play your A game. But I like what Penn State's done to this point with the game against Colgate, the game against Notre Dame, where at points in time they seem a little overmatched, but they find a way. And that's the important part of this here, is that Penn State continues to find ways to win against these elite teams.
Yeah, it's been an up and down season. So to get to this point, to be in a Final Four is very impressive, because it easily could have come off the rails at multiple points. This team has battled injuries. Matt Traynor, we know, had an upper body injury. Hunter Aquino is not healthy right now either. He's not even practicing basically the last 6 weeks. They were talking about it on the broadcast, how he's not even practicing. That's how unhealthy he is, and he's just saving everything he has to be able to play in the game. So that they've been banged up, but they got to this point, and their depth is their key. They are not a Penn State team like in prior years where you had Grant Ament and Mac O'Keefe running the offense, and they were the two most dominant players in the country at the time, especially together, where they could turn a game on its head at any moment. Penn State doesn't really have that. We saw what Matt Traynor did, but that's not really him. They're a team that needs to rely on his depth offensively, and that's what they need against Cornell, because it can't just be one guy.
Still to come on this bonus episode of Locked On Nittany Lions, the key for this Penn State men's lacrosse team to beat Cornell again, the #1 team in the nation, it's going to come down to offense. We're going to talk about why coming up next here. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and even live during the game. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and to win big. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. That's right, $200 in bonus bets to use on the NBA playoffs. And if we look over at FanDuel, you can see the lines for those conference finals. The Minnesota Timberwolves are on the road against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are 7.5-point underdogs, plus 260 on the money line. The Thunder are minus 320. The total is set at 214.5. Thunder lead after one game so far. If you like those lines, go over to FanDuel.com. And if you are new to FanDuel, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Cornell is good enough that they can probably prevent a situation like what Matt Traynor did from happening. They have a really good goalie. I think he's around 53% of saves on the year, which is a really good number. If you're over 50, that's where you want to be as a goalie. So they are very strong defensively. And the only other team that's given them a test this year is Richmond, who Cornell beat to get to the Final Four. Their game earlier this season, also a 1-goal game that Cornell won. So Richmond and Penn State, the only two teams that have given Cornell a 1-goal test this season. And in that game that Penn State won, they had to score 4 goals in the final 2:27 to tie it and send it to overtime. You want to talk about, again, a tremendous rally and almost a miracle comeback. Well, it happened in that game up in Ithaca, and then Ethan Long scored in overtime to win it. So they need to have depth offensively. It can't just be one guy. The defense has to be strong, just like it was against Colgate. When the offense wasn't clicking, the defense kept them in it and allowed them to work through some of the struggles. And in the second half, it started clicking. Same thing against Notre Dame. The offense was really getting stagnant in the first half and in the third quarter. And then the defense kept them in it, got some turnovers, and the offense clicked, and we saw what happened there. So, but this is a game you don't want to be caught sleeping in the first half, because CJ Kirst is on the other side, the best player in the country right now, 76 goals, number 1 overall pick in the PLL draft to the Water Dogs. He is a difference maker. Kind of quiet against Richmond, though. Only 2 goals for him and 2 assists. But he is a guy that can turn a game on its head and be a difference maker. So that's what I'm looking at this game. You know, mentioned the Tambroni stuff. It's not like this is the first time Penn State and Cornell are playing. You know, they've played each other over the years. So that narrative's kind of been worked out already. Jeff has talked about it. I don't think that's going to be too much of a factor in this game. It's just a fun talking point. Like, hey, he was a coach at Cornell for 10 years, took him to a Final Four. Now Penn State and Cornell are playing. Cornell hasn't won a national championship since 1977. They were the runner-up in 2022. They lost to Maryland. So this is going to be an unreal semifinal game, I think, with a lot at stake for both programs that are trying to get there to Memorial Day and play for a national championship.
This one goes down in Foxborough. It's actually where the New England Patriots play, and it's going to be on ESPN2 for anybody that wants to watch it. Expect a lot of goals. Expect a lot of goals in this one. And I know that when it comes down to semifinals or late in the postseason, that typically you see teams get a little more conservative, a little more conscious with how the game unfolds. But this is just Cornell's bread and butter. The Big Red like to play at a high pace. They're number 1 in the nation in goals. They're able to distribute the ball. Yes, you mentioned CJ Kirst, who's the best player, and it's not even up for debate here. But this team runs through him, but it also runs through an offense that's just so diverse. And Penn State, even though they beat them the last time 13-12 in overtime, I'm not saying that they can't defeat them again, but this Cornell team has been unstoppable. They've been an absolute wagon. They only have 1 loss on the season, and it came 1 goal in overtime earlier in the season. Penn State's offense, if I'm looking at a key for this game, Penn State needs to diversify more than, and again, if Matt Traynor can take over, okay, more power to them. But it's easier said than done when you have this magical moment. It's kind of what we talked about in hockey, right? where one player steps up and just kind of strings a bunch of games along together where it's, oh, he's unstoppable. But what happens if Traynor doesn't have his best day? He's slightly above average. And then where does Penn State go?
Yeah, that's what you're wondering. And that's when you need guys like Ethan Long and Kyle Lehman, whatever Hunter Aquino has in them. Some of these players, they have to be those depth guys and contribute. So that's really what it's going to come down to. Can Penn State do enough offensively to match what Cornell is going to do? I don't think you're holding Cornell to 10 goals or less unless Penn State's defense and Jack Fracyon just shut the door. They're going to need a really good game from Jack Fracyon. I know he's kind of been in the conversation the past couple months of he's having a down season, but he was great in the second half against Notre Dame. And again, exactly. He didn't have to face a shot on goal in the fourth quarter. So anytime that happens, as a goalie, you love it. But he is going to be another key to this game. If Frack is on and making saves, Penn State has as good a chance as anyone to beat Cornell. If Frack isn't making saves and all of a sudden you're in another 4, 5, 6 goal hole, that's when maybe you're not coming back from this time. It's tough to rally that much in lacrosse, especially on championship weekend against the best team in the country right now. And Richmond gave Cornell everything they could handle. The Spiders were absolutely outstanding. They actually had a 3-goal lead at one point on Cornell in that quarterfinal game. And, Cornell came back. That was just a great lacrosse. What a great quarterfinal weekend of lacrosse games to watch, because they were all on the edge of your seat, what's going to happen type games. So And you got Maryland and Syracuse on the other side of the bracket, waiting for the winner of that. So I think a great matchup in championship weekend, both semifinals. Should be a lot of fun, but you got to bring your best now against Cornell, because it's going to take more than 10 goals, I think, to win this game. And Penn State's extra man has to be good. They were 0 for 3 against Notre Dame. In championship weekend, the little things matter. Just like we've talked about, in hockey, the little things add up. Are you clearing well? You don't want to have 5, 6 failed clears, because that's just possession given right back to the other team. You got to be good at the faceoff acts. Your special teams have to be good. Your man up, your man down. You need your goalie to make some saves. All those little things. Ground ball. You got to be a ground ball merchant in championship weekend. That pill is the most important thing. So you're going to see a lot of really good ground ball battles. Guys just laying it on the line to get that ball and either get possession back or win possession for them. So this is the best time of year for lacrosse. The tournament, championship weekend. It's so much fun to watch.
It's going to come down to which trio ends up out-dueling the other, if that's for Kirst of Cornell, Michael Long, Ryan Goldstein, or Penn State's trio of Traynor, Hunter Aquino, Ethan Long. And we'll see it all unfold Saturday, May 24th, noon Eastern time, the New England Patriots football stadium, Gillette Stadium up in Foxborough, Massachusetts, with the intention of playing. If you win, you move on and face either Syracuse or Maryland in that Monday national championship. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm the host of this show, as always. That is our special guest on the other side. Eric Ohlson is one of the radio voices of Penn State men's hockey, but is also doubles up as a lacrosse expert here. Eric, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate the insight and analysis.
Yeah, of course. Now that hockey's done, it's great to be talking lacrosse, and what a run for Penn State sports this year, man. Multiple teams getting to Final Fours, and see if another one can win a natty.